Sairam, dear brothers and sisters, by the infinite grace, love, and compassion of Bhagwan Baba, we all are gathered here for this first formal session of the Nurturing Spiritual Growth, which we started last week with the orientation program. So today's session is about today's session is about what is spirituality. And this is sometimes most of us are already in the spirituality, but what exactly is spirituality? So this is what we are talking about today. And basically, I would like William to step in and go through the question that was asked the last time before you all went after the previous session. William?
Yes. Sairam, everyone, and good morning or good evening to you, as you wish. As Suresh just mentioned, the toolkit, the assignment, if you will, to think about and to dwell upon from the last orientation was, what is your spiritual goal? And there's a couple of ways that you might have thought about this. One is, do I have a goal itself? Do I have a specific endpoint or an aim that I'd like to have in terms of my spiritual growth? It could be, you might think about it in terms of what's calling me to be here in this kind of webinar. What's my intention for spiritual growth? So we'd just like to open it up just so we can hear from different people. What have you felt in your heart or your mind about why you're here, what your spiritual goal might be? So I'm going to open up the mic and just go ahead and you can either raise your hand or you can just jump in. Raising your hand is down there in the reactions button for many of you with Zoom and so on. So who would like to be the wonderful soul to speak first?
Saram, William, Ashok here.
Yes, Ashok.
So if I could just share something, I guess if one were to answer that question, one would go back to Swami and know that the ultimate spiritual goal is attaining self-realization.
Yeah.
Now, the purpose of the spiritual goal of this name and form in this birth may not be as lofty as that, because that may be perceived to be a destination. And it's, as I see it, with God's grace, ultimately that you achieve self-realization. But I think we need to spend this life preparing ourselves to be worthy of that grace. And by that, I mean this life is an opportunity for purification. And what comes to mind is what Swami says, spirituality is elevation from the animal to the human to the divine. And so for me, this process of elevation from the animal to the human, and just pausing there for a moment, is really coming to grips with that negativity within me, those demons within me, so that they no longer possess me. And so that by the removal of those, it would be easier through my other sadhana to develop that purity within me. And so if you ask me, what is your spiritual goal in this birth? I would say it is that greater inner purity, that greater inner wisdom. And when I say wisdom, that includes greater spiritual knowledge, but also the realization and experience of that knowledge, which takes time, but that's the goal for me.
Thank you. You brought up a very nice word there about, and think, is your goal the destination? Or if I can phrase, is it the journey itself? In a certain way that you were saying, part of the intention is just to be on the journey and just to be on the road. The destinations will come, but it's not measured just by reaching a destination. It's measured by how well we proceed. Good, thank you. Someone else like to speak? Thank you.
Saira.
Okay.
I think for me, spirituality, it started with just a natural that I used to love read spiritual books, and I used to feel joy. And then slowly it started that the feeling that what is the purpose of life? Because I could see the people dying and people suffering. So will there be any solution to happiness,
Mm.
which which should be permanent.
Mhm.
So that's what the spirituality for me it looks like, that to attain
Okay.
something which makes me always happy and to in a bliss. Sairam.
Okay, good. Sairam, thank you so much. Sairam. James, how about you?
Saram, for me, it's like more like Brother Manoj say, finding the truth about life, the purpose of life. So for me, I always look at a Buddha and what does it mean by enlightenment? Of course, we know it's self-realization, but then how can we evolve to that level? And then for the purpose, not for the self, more like if we have the true knowledge, probably like Buddha, we can share and help more people. Sairam.
Mhm. Good. Thank you so much, Sairam. Yes. Sabitan. Sabitan? There we go.
Yes. Yeah. Sairam. I think we can all agree, ultimately, we have the same spiritual goal. And Swami has quite eloquently laid it all out for us, and the choice is all out. However, for me, being here today in this program, I would say my goal would be to enjoy every single moment to moment experience, being present, being attentive to what has been presented, what is being shared, being engaged with the entire crowd, and trying to feel Swami's presence through the presence of everyone here. So for me, that brings out the essence of spirituality as far as the Nurturing Spiritual Growth program is concerned. Sarah.
Sairam, thank you. I think I'll turn this back to Suresh with just one more comment, and then you can take it from there, Suresh. And that is that one thing, just to keep us a floating question as we go through this whole program, is the extent to which is the goal that we have in mind, or the end, or the purpose that we have in mind, is to what extent has that already been achieved and we just have to awaken to it, and to what extent is it something we're still striving towards? And so one has a sense of resting in a truth, the other has a moving forward at the same time. And just to keep those two thoughts in mind as we venture through the day. Okay, Suresh, back to you.
Thank you.
William, sorry, Suresh, forgive me. May I just ask a question?
Sure.
May we spend a moment, William, with your permission, on the
Sure.
question, what is not spirituality?
Mm.
And I tell you why I asked that question, because we all go to Sai Center, for example, because we all say we love Swami. And we get very engrossed in the bhajans, and we get engrossed in the sevas, and we get sometimes engrossed in rituals and the temples, and we think we're being very spiritual. With your permission, could we spend a moment, and I'd love to hear your views and other people's views on what is not spirituality?
Thank you. Well, let me just give you an experience I had as a starting point to that. When I first came to Swami, which was in 1982, I had actually, maybe it was my second trip in 1985 or so, and I had my first time Pad Namaskar. And it was a long one. Swami came out, I was in the front row. This was when the sands were there, not Kulan Tall. And I had prayed for this moment, and he came and stood right in front of me, and I leaned forward and touched his feet and just stayed there. I mean, it must have lasted 10 or 15 seconds. It was not like a brief touch. And then he moved, so I pulled back, but he only moved about 6 inches, so I reached out again. And when I went home with such a blessing, I was mystified, because when I got home back to the USA, I didn't want to sing bhajans. I didn't want to be vegetarian. I didn't want to chant or read literature. I didn't want to be vegetarian. I didn't want to do anything of my spiritual practice. And I felt guilty. I felt upset. I felt concerned. Why could I be so unthankful? And then Swami came to me in my heart and pointed out to me that everything I'd been doing for being spiritual was the checkbox. Vegetarian, check. Meditation, check. Don't do harm, check. And the message was, just those behaviors by themselves don't make me spiritual. The spirituality happens in the heart. And that anytime, anything I was doing that increased the love in my heart would be my sadhana. And anything that didn't improve the love in my heart, just put it aside and forget it and don't do it. So that's part of how I want to set up what your question is really looking at what is it that grows in our heart. So let me just turn it over to anyone else who'd like to share.
This is Niranjan. I would like to, I really like the question, what is non-spirituality? And so I think, to me, I'm very glad that Brother asked this question, because this goes along with the Vedantic phrase, neti, neti, which means not just this, not just this. So what is not? If we think, oh, we are doing spiritual, but there is more to it. So how is this going to be applied in our daily life, right? That's the question. And the whole purpose of this program is also to nurture that spirituality in our daily life. We are probably going to be doing the same thing. In other words, we wake up in the morning, we go to work or we go to school. It's just going to be the same thing. But what changes is the perspective. Am I maybe a gauge to see if I'm a better person today than yesterday? If I can really be sincere and say that, yes, I've improved a little bit from yesterday to today, I think that is a spiritual progress. And so that is a gauge for us to know. And in my opinion, I think there is nothing that's not spiritual, because, and also it's more than the goal. It's the process, it's the journey that is important. Sai Ram.
Sai Ram, and thank you. Let's let's carry on. So the other toolkit that we gave everybody to go back and practice is this term called SAI, sensitization, sensitizing, anchoring, and integration. So we said that, look, these three things we need to continuously become aware. So whatever that you're doing, okay, this is information. How are we relating to that information? And then how are we integrating that information to make it an integral lifestyle? So we introduced this concept the last time, and we encouraged the participants to return back and practice this and see whether anything happened. So is there anybody want to share any experience that you have of this process in your daily life? You can see, for a good example will be that you see a joystick. The joystick is going down, is burning, 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 and going down. So that is sensitization. That information is coming into your eyes. So the way you process that information is that, joystick is going down, so the fragrance is coming out. Therefore, I should be like the joystick, that I should continuously give the fragrance of my life as I burn away. But when I integrate that ideal into my life, is everything that in my life that I'm doing, giving a fragrance, giving an effulgence, giving a radiance, so that it leaves behind a benchmark. So you see, I've integrated the joystick into my life in that sense. Like that, in everything that we do, is there a process taking place? So that was what the question that was asked the last time. Did anybody practice this, or did anyone find this useful or practical? Because this is exactly what the whole basis of the course would be. Everything that we do, we go into sensitize, anchor, integrate, sensitize, anchor, integrate. This is the nurturing process that we got to now look at. Because remember, we're going to the deeper ends of experience now. Anybody want to share?
Sai Ram, Brother Suresh. I think there's 3 points: Shravanam, Maranam, and Nididhasanam.
Yeah.
Sensitization, anchoring, and integration. So I think, yes, last time I shared that when I was doing the prayer, I was not that forceful, though not contemplating much on it when I was doing the Lord's prayer. So when I was doing, I tried to put that into practice. So there is some progress, but Still, it will take long time. So this is what I have learned from the last time's session.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Manoj. Thank you, brother. Yeah, it'll take, I mean, as long as its system gets clicked inside and, then it's over. As long as it goes on live, it's a whole process, because remember, look at the cycle. The cycle is not complete. It goes back again to sensitizing, because remember, we are going back again into developing a higher level of consciousness. So when a higher level of consciousness, then again, you will be receiving information at the higher level, which again anchors you, integrates you. So it goes back again higher and higher and higher, the whole process, you see. So this is how our growth in spirituality is all about. Anybody else? One more person, and then we quickly go into the session today. Anybody else? One more. Any other sharing? Yeah, somebody raised the hands. James raised the hands. James Kong. Brother James.
You should be able to unmute. I've allowed everyone.
Sorry, just now can't unmute. Don't know why it was locked up. Okay. Anyway, I think life is very interesting. Sometimes we know the truth, we know the teaching, and yet we are caught in the situation, right? Daily, weekly, we are caught in the situation where you saw the problem, and yet, you have to be very patient, very tolerant. But even our tolerance and the patience also, sometimes there's a limit, especially, if people keep on stirring the issue or the problem. And no matter how you know the right or the correct answer, but the other party might not accept it. So that's why there's a lot of, I would say, like, you can say disturbance or, drilling, it's actually like testing your tolerance to the limit, and you just have to respond. Even the reaction will not be good from the other side. So to me, it's like, how much you can take up, how much can you be tolerant and silence, and let the thing flow. I think in this situation, sometimes, like, we can only pray, or, we can pray or talk to Swami to give guideline. So life is not actually as what theory we say we know the right answer means it's going to be accepted by others. No, we actually have to, the answer might be even in ourselves. Though you might be like, that means the answer in you means you yourself, no matter how people beat you, how people drill you, how people hammer you, will you be able to take it? That is a very big question mark, Sairam.
Thank you, James. So that was a nice, good insight. So let's carry on now. So we'll go to the next one, Niranjan. So what does spirituality mean to you? This leads up to the next question. We asked what does this mean to you? So this is a very important question as well, because we need to have a relationship with this word. Only then can we probably relate to things, but we won't spend time on it because we already spent quite some time on the reflection part. So we'll just quickly go on. Next one. Just keep this in mind. Now, the main thing is the car. There's the concept of the car is running. Click. You find that the car, you press the accelerator, the smoke keeps coming out. But the only reason why the car doesn't move is because we have not pushed the gear. So maybe we are in the spiritual path. We are doing all what we are doing. There's a lot of, the kind of activity, but the experience is not getting complete because probably the gear is not put inside. And that's a contemplative question to ask. If the gear is there, is pushed forward, the car may go forward. So sometimes the checkpoints, that's what William said, maybe you are too caught up in the checkpoints and we are not too much going into the experience part of it. So the next slide shows you that perhaps we need to measure things. Like this lady is measuring a weight. A weight will always be good because this is the wrong way of measuring. So the key point here is that how do you measure rightly and progress? Because in everything else, Whether we are rich or poor, there's a measurement. If the marks are coming high or low, there's a measurement. So in everything else also, Swami gave one proof. The softness of the ground is the proof of the rain. The softness of the heart is the proof of spirituality. So that is one amazing expression of measurement of spirituality. So maybe we need to start literally becoming extremely accountable for these things so that we can know where we are, so that we can progress to where we should be. So next slide will demonstrate the definition. So I'm just picking up some definition of spirituality because this is what today's subject is about. So we want to speak from Baba's perspective, Bhagwan Baba's teachings, the definition of spirituality from Swami's teachings. So what is spirituality? It is a resolute pursuit of cosmic consciousness. Spirituality aims at enabling man to manifest in all its fullness in the divine Chaitanya that is present within and outside him. It means getting rid of the animal nature in man and developing the divine tendencies in him. It means breaking down the barriers between God and nature and establishing the essential oneness. You will find a series of teachings of this nature, but there is a common thread that comes out, basically pointing to one amazing element towards it. It means getting rid of animal nature. Why, Baba, should I get rid of animal nature? Because if I take out this animal nature, I'll move towards divine tendencies. What happens if I move towards divine tendencies? I will start breaking down all the barriers. And then what will I experience? I will experience oneness. So technically, Bhagavan's definition of spirituality is heading towards one amazing destination of oneness. So next slide shows you like this river. This river comes from different, we can name the river from different rivers where it flows. It has got its own river, its own identity. But when it reaches an ocean, you'll find that it has no more identity. So it is this oneness that we are moving towards, where we lose all our opinions and all those kind of stuff. And we find that we experience a homogeneity, seamlessness, oneness. That is what the experience that Swami is talking about. So,
Suresh, can I just mention something real quick there?
Sure.
That there's a way of thinking about this also, that as a river, you have your separate identity. And when you merge into the ocean, you actually experience a new sense of identity. It's the other way of seeing it. At the same time as having no identity, you also have a new identity because you realize I am the ocean.
Yeah.
So it's like there's two ways of thinking about that are really beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you, William. So now comes to the second point. Again, in another discourse, Baba said, next slide, what is spiritual wisdom? Again, you look at this. What is spiritual wisdom? The end of result. Ashok asked us now, one of the objectives was wisdom. What is spiritual wisdom? Baba said, experience of non-dualism is wisdom. Advaita darshanam jnanam. People want to attain God, contemplate on him and worship him, but they do not realize that they cannot. True nature, that is existence, knowledge, and bliss. What is this ignorance? The absence of spiritual knowledge. In fact, knowledge and ignorance are not separate from each other. It's like a switch. If you switch it on, the whole dark room becomes light. So experiencing non-dualism is wisdom. So that means now in my life, I must continue to remove these barriers, which is what the earlier slide told you, that I must remove barriers. I must experience oneness. And I must experience continuous oneness is non-dualism. So somewhere I read also, the more and more I have duality, I need healing. Spirituality is like a healing to break up, to repair back the healing fracture that happens sometimes in ourselves. Darshanam, jnanam, everything I see oneness. So this is the amazing experience that we're supposed to go through, taken again from another discourse of Swami's. So now when I go to the third discourse, Swami said, spirituality means seeking to realize the oneness of all beings. There's only one. All came out of this one only. The entire creation itself came out from this one. So taking the same strand of thought, we are bringing now, we are bringing into experiencing the oneness in all human beings. You see the same oneness. Then Baba in another discourse, Swami says, True spirituality consists of promoting human unity through harmonious living and sharing the joy with one and all. So when you see the one in everyone, then to promote a kind that humanity, that unity, that harmonious living and sharing with the joy, this then becomes a great seva, that we ourselves experience the oneness and we share this oneness with others. So this is Niranjan will explain this.
Swami, I have doubt, Swami, please forgive me. Swami, you said, Swami, God created the universe, everything got created. But before the universe was created, before this consciousness was there, Swami, was God there before the universe?
That consciousness is God.
That consciousness is God.
Is God. God is not separated. Consciousness is everywhere. In you, with you, above you, below you, around you. Without consciousness, you are not. Consciousness is everywhere. That is God. I am telling you, you are also God. You are also God. You are also God. My words with any difference, no any time. God's create क्या was saying? Sankalpa. एक आत्मा, first Sankalpa. Eko hum bahusyam. That is first.
So, it's the will of God first.
Eko hum
One.
bahusyam. Nenu kade anekam kavala.
One manifested into many. How?
Small example. Correct direct examples nahi. Thoda equal and
near examples.
Near example. Two hai. Two एक ही है. एक वो हम बहुश्याम. मैं अनेक हो सकता है. I want a wife. Second. That. I want wife. Wife. Next, I want son. Next, I want daughter. इतना फैमिली किधर से आया? हमारा संकल्प. एको हम बहुश्याम. मैं अनेक.
I become many.
ऐसा नहीं भगवान कहने को. एको हम बहुश्य. एक ही गॉड से कॉन्शियसनेस अनेक रूप में जा सकता है.
God, one consciousness, takes many forms.
पार्टर एक ही मड है. कितना मड, कितना पार्ट्स, कितना प्लेट्स, कितना कप्स, कितना ये कर सकता है. इतना कप्स, इतना पार्ट्स, इतना प्लेट्स, इतना किधर से आया? मड से आया. मट अलग, पार्ट अलग नहीं. ऐसा consciousness and you are also same. Or only part. Part में मट है. चेपरू वाला में
Consciousness is everywhere. You are also consciousness. That's why Bhagavan says, you are also God. And you are the pot. The consciousness is inside, within you. A potter makes out of the mud, a pot, plate, cup, everything he makes, so many things, out of the same mud. And the pot and mud are not separate. In the pot also there is mud.
Pot and mud is not separate.
Pot and mud are not separate.
Not separate.
Not separate.
God and create,
God and creation are not separate.
But useful, useless, that is a difference.
But there is difference when
parts दूसरा use कर सकता है.
Pots people make use of the pots.
Water stop करता है. Rice boil करता है. Mutton boil करता है. Dog boil करता है. और दूसरा यदि parts को पानी डालता है तो देगी. Plant.
Some plants, potted plants. The pots can be used for various purposes. Out of the mud, so many pots are made, and pots can be used for different purposes.
Pot and mud is same.
But there's difference in using it. But the mud and pot is like that, same, made of the same material.
So Swami, even we are God, Swami. That's what you're telling. Then why should an individual who is God, why should he strive to reach God?
నేనే భగవంతుడిని అయినప్పుడు నేను భగవంతుడిని చేరటం ఏమిటి?
నేను భగవంతుడిని అనేటువంటి కాన్ఫిడెన్స్ పూర్తి అయితే చేరనక్కర్లేదు.
When once you have full confidence you are God, there is no question of reaching God.
That is reaching.
That is reaching. The very awareness that you are God is.
I am God. There is no any reaching.
Nothing reaching.
Reaching है नहीं.
No reaching.
only one. Question की कोई तो है भला इतना वो stage है ना, no any reaching अलग नहीं, दूसरा person अलग नहीं.
At that stage, when you know that you are God, there is no question of reaching.
You are reaching. No second.
No second, only that.
Second.
No second.
Ekam Deva Advitiyam Brahma, not two only.
Only one, not two, only one.
Who stage नहीं आता, no consideration.
That stage you have not got it,
Go
therefore you have
reach.
to. So you have to reach.
Go, yes.
You have to go.
Tell me how to reach.
Huh?
How to reach.
देखो अभी आफ्टर लंच आफ्टर डिनर टिफिन स्वामी जी के पास जल्दी जल्दी आ सकता है, ट्राई करता है. एक किसी में बैक सीट में हो सकता है, एक किसी में फ्रंट सीट में मिल सकता है. तुम्हारी इंटरेस्ट प्रेमा दैट इज लव दैट इज तुमको कितना जल्दी आता है बैठता है और मैंने दूर बैठता है
बस.
That is it. प्रत्यक्ष स्वामी जी के नियर कितना जल्दी जाने की बहुत इच्छा है. इनर फोर्स
स्वामी
ఇంటర్నల్ ఒక అఫెక్షన్ బాగా ఉంచిగా ఉంటే ఇదేం వచ్చేసేస్తావు దగ్గరికి. ఇంటర్నల్ అఫెక్షన్ సరిగా లేకపోతే దూరంలో కూర్చుంటావు.
The question is how to reach God. Bhagavan gives us an example of just what is happening now. Worldly example. Now we are there in the dining hall. When Bhagavan sits here, we'll run immediately, we'll dash, we'll rush at a high speed and take the first seat. Why? Because of the interest we have. When there is affection internal affection, then we'll go there. When we don't have that interest, when there's no internal affection, we'll have the back seat.
ఇట్లా ఇంట్రెస్ట్ అఫెక్షన్ రెండు ఉంటుంటే ఫోర్స్ చేస్తుంది.
When there's interest and affection coupled together, it will force you.
You know science? What science? See, our Indians rockets करता है.
Indians prepare rockets.
అది एक
శ్రీహరికోటకు
తీసుకుపోతుంది. అక్కడ దానికి తగినటువంటి ఫౌండేషన్ దానికి ఎక్విప్మెంట్ అంతా అక్కడ ఉన్నాయి.
All the equipment of the rocket are all located there in Sriharikota.
అది పోయే ముందుగా ఎంత బ్యాక్ కొడుతుందో అంత ఫ్రంట్ పోతుంది.
It just drives backwards, pushes backwards, and it will proceed with double as much as recedes.
అదే కాదు arrow.
It's like an arrow shape.
ఎంత లాగి కొట్టేస్తావో అంత స్పీడ్.
The more you pull it back, the faster it proceeds forwards.
కనుక ఎంత నీవు ఆ ప్రేమను ఎంత పూర్తి లాగేసేస్తావో అంత స్పీడ్.
This
I'm just mesmerized by the sweetness that Swami is showering here with sharing this very intellectual high principles, but he simplified so much. A couple of things that come to my mind is Swami also talks about the consciousness and how it is in terms of a fish in the water. There is water outside, there's water inside, but it's all surrounded by the consciousness, and that water is consciousness. And even earlier what Brother William shared about that, the water and the identity, although the identity was different, the river and the ocean, there is still that one common factor, that was the water. The water element was common, and that is the foundation, that is the oneness, or that is the common denominator among all of us, the creation and the creator. And Swami says that I separate myself from myself so that I could love myself. And that's again what, as he said here, that one became many with that intent to love. And also to know God and to reach our destination or the goal, it is that the uninterrupted intensity, uninterrupted inquiry, it's very important. And I was just thinking, when Swami says that to go forward, you need to pull so much back so that you could go that much you could go forward with that much force. And I was thinking, how do we pull that back? And then a thought that comes to my mind is you go deeper and deeper into ourselves, so that we contemplate on the teachings and we integrate that in our daily life. Our outlook towards the life changes. And with that outlook, with that integration, going back to the sensitization, that we have a different perspective. And with that perspective, it's as Brother Suresh mentioned, it's so much different, it's so much expansive, that we have that awareness, and we know the awareness, or we become aware of the true self. As Swami said, we don't become God, we just become aware of the presence. So I think Swami basically summarized the whole course or the whole objective in this 7-minute video. So this is something that we need to keep in mind and always refer to, so that it's a reminder and also gives so much energy for us to go forward in our spiritual path. So brothers and sisters, the next few minutes, we're just going to absorb and contemplate on these messages. So we'll have some of the sayings from different traditions, spiritual traditions, so that the other point is also to understand that each spiritual tradition conveys the same message. That is commonality, that the foundation is one, that is God, or the consciousness is the foundation, and on that foundation everything else is established. So let's take a few minutes just to absorb the message and see how we can practice these Swami's teachings. So next few minutes, it's going to be, you probably have experienced this last time too. We'll have the silent sitting, and there'll be sayings from different spiritual traditions.
Thank you, Niranjan. Yeah. So we continue. And now this part comes to the part where we actually need to discuss this in the workshop. Now, in your heart, there is a chair, there's a throne. The key point here is that who have we put on the throne to rule, to govern, to influence, to give us the perception, to give us the identity? Who have we ruled? So we look at and check and click, and you'll find that it is our mind. So it is the mind that is sitting there and continuously giving us all kinds of directions because we are receiving the information from the senses, and the mind is in control. And the mind is so powerful and so influential, it enchants us. It makes us feel that this world is so real that we will completely become a slave to the demands of the senses. And then our own Atma, we jail our Atma. So our Atma is jailed inside. It is silently sitting there, waiting to come out. The fact that it is struggling to come out is why the avatar came down to give us the clue as to how we can release the Atma and reinstall back the Atma onto the throne. If we keep on thinking that we are the mind, then we find that we come to experience all these things. And maybe William wants to jump in now.
Yeah, you look at these, these beliefs that we form in ourselves. I'm not worthy. I must be perfect. I'm a sinner. I'm not good enough. And it seems like people in all countries, all cultures have some degree of this. And it becomes like I'm lacking something. How do I fill it back up? I'm always lacking. I'm always not worthy. I'm not enough, and so on. And if you look at this is what runs the global economy. Gee, if you just had a better job, if you just had more money, if you just had this, you'd be valuable. And yet we somehow inherently feel like we're just not as valuable. And this is something to really watch out for. Like Suresh is saying, it's the mind who's giving us that message, because as Swami just said, the value of who we are cannot be gained or lost. It is 100% perfect already. And I think it's shifting these things that are weighing us down to the balloons that will lift us up, and realizing what Swami has just said in that beautiful video that we just saw. Thank you.
Thank you, William. So
if I may just add one thing, Suresh, just about this, in one of the interactions with students, Swami said that the question was, Swami, you say we are God, then how do we conduct ourselves? And Swami said, again, how he showed here, if you have the confidence that, once you have the confidence that you're God, your behavior also should be according. In other words, all these things are basically imposed by mind, and we cannot say, I'm God, and then we also cannot feel that I'm worthless. It has to be very sincere, and we have to feel that, yes, I am God, I'm complete. And I mean, this is something that I've been practicing the last few months. And sometimes I feel so distracted, and I have that 2 minutes maybe conversation with my own self and said, this is a complete self, and I can't be just, wasting my time and doing these things. Somehow that clarity comes, and then I'm able to focus on work and focus on things that I need to do at the very moment. And this particular statement of Swami saying that always you tend to be God, then pretend to be God, then you tend to be God, then you end up being God. So I think, this has been my practice for the last few months, and I am. It helps a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Niranjan. Thank you, William. And now we proceed. So now we know that the mind, when it is on the throne, this is what happens. Now, this is an analogy that we often use, and this is the best analogy that you can find, that if we decide to remain at the top of the surface of the ocean, we will always be lashed by the waves and we'll be tossed by the waves. We need to have the willingness or the yearning to reach the seabed level. The seabed can be considered as the Atma, the ever restful place, ever blissful place. It is from that place that we look up, we can see the fluctuating waves, but we will not be carried away by the waves. So the whole idea of spirituality is through the processes of visiting a Sai center, bhajan, study circle, and everything else, is to reach to this stage of Atma. So how do we do this? Next slide. So the Baba said, and this is a beautiful story that Swami quotes it in many places. It's about the Chataka bird. And let me read this, and then we'll appreciate this whole point of what Swami said. The Chataka bird endures many ordeals to secure unsullied raindrops from the clouds. The moment it spies a dark cloud in the sky, it embarks on its adventure. There is water plenty on the earth. There is water in the lake. There is water in the pond. There is water in the rivers. But the Chataka bird has no use for these polluted waters. It waits for the pure raindrops in the month of Kartik and does not seek any other water. It is undaunted by thunder and lightning. It seeks only the pure raindrops falling from the clouds without fear or concern. It sings in joy as it drinks the raindrops. The Chataka bird is an example of pure love. The true devotee should perform a similar penance to realize God. He must have the same determination. He must go through similar ordeals to experience the ultimate ecstasy. He must not succumb to the wills and attractions of the world. So he uses this Chataka bird as an example. And in fact, I went into the Discovery Channel to look at the Chataka bird. And it's amazing that that bird actually is thirsty, is really thirsty, but he will not drink the normal water in the rain, in the pond or the lake. It's even in the sun, when he's really needing water, it won't look. It just looks for the rainwater to come. And so Baba's example of this is so beautiful because he's not attracted by any other things. He just wants that pure water. And it's amazing. Once he gets that water and as the rainwater goes inside, you will find that the birds will be singing and joy and ecstasy. And that's an amazing sight to watch in the channels. So now the question is, and this is for our own self-reflection, keeping the Chataka bird in mind, how else should we advance to reach higher spiritual experience? This is what our question is. So like the Chataka bird, how are we going to enhance our experience? How are we going to deepen our experience? Because how long can we remain at the physical level? Next, how long are we going to remain at the mental level? How long are we going to continuously analyze and analyze? But when will we dive into the spiritual ocean itself? So if we keep these three dimensions of existence smaller than the spiritual one, our life will be secure. How are we going to do this? Next. So then Swami said, this is the more I find in this quotation from Sathya Sai Vahini is the most motivation of all. We have slid down into the present decline, mainly because we have lost faith in the Atma in us. This was the beginning of our fall. For loss of confidence in the Atma or self involves loss of faith in God himself. So these are magic words. So, okay, so now I got it. That means to say, Baba, what do you want us to do? That means you must have faith in Atma. Okay, how do we do this? Next. So therefore, I have to go back to the chair. And now what I must do, I must now reinstall back the Atma. So now let's click, okay, put back the Atma on the chair and mind you must abolish. So that's why the word Rama is a very nice acronym, easy to remember. Reinstall back Atma on your throne, mind you abolish. That means you put back the mind. Now the mind, you must listen only, let the Atma be in control and let this be in the mind. Now go back, now next slide, you'll see the processes involved. Let's say the mind is in control. Look at the reactions of what we will do. There'll be overthinking, there'll be anxiety, there'll be fear, there'll be lack of confidence, anger, jealousy, envy, judgmental, separate. Everything that we normally behave is because the mind is on the throne. Supposing we put Atma on the throne, what will happen? Every time we'll feel blissful, gratitude, peace, love, righteousness, truth, unity, compassion, all the wonderful things that is the expression of Atma is how we will feel. So anytime we want to feel this way, then we must know who is in control. So now you have a regulator button now. The fact that it tells you who is in operation, at least now we can come to realize who is in command of our situation. So unnecessarily, we have put the wrong person as the pilot, and our flight has been hijacked, has been literally taken over, and we have now gone to another destination, not the real destination that we want to do. So our job, and this is our effort, to take charge of our flight and reinstall back the pilot, Atma, into the flight, into the cockpit, and let him drive so that we can go into experiencing all the other aspects of what these values are. So this transition is what we need to do. Some of us, even the notion that even the notion, yes, it is a long process, is also the job of what the mind is telling you. Because the mind, yes, it takes a long time, it takes effort. No, I can't possibly do it. It is not possible. These are all the illusions that mind churns out for us to believe. This is the breakthrough that we now need to know, so that we do not get deceived by the mind that is already programming us to think otherwise. That's why the teacher has come and for 85 years sang, taught, motivated, showed us the way, how we should reinstall. That's why all the speeches, not one, all the speeches, Baba has said, Atma Sarupa, Atma Sarupa. He's asking us, install this back, install this programming back. Up, even the telephone we used to upgrade, isn't it? The old phones we used to upgrade our systems, even the hand phones, even the laptops or computers we upgrade. So now, how do we upgrade this? How do we upgrade our system? Is what this whole process is. Now, I just want I like the story. Niranjan's that story is nice. Can you just jump in and tell us that story about what Swami said?
Sure. So one thing I just want to say that when I look at these two things, there is one word from each category that is really sticking out. And on the mind category, I see that the word fear, because that word fear is, when the mind is controlled, fear is actually ruling. And the fear is, if you look at any emergency situations, the fear is that there's limited supply. So we are overthinking, we become anxious, we become irritated. But when we have faith, no, at this moment, I am totally fine. Then I become grateful, we become just patient, and we only think about what is needed at that very moment, being in the present. So the big difference is the fear, because the mind thinks it's very confined by the space and time. But Atma, it's when we have that confidence in the Atma, then we think beyond that. We don't feel confined by the physical boundaries. So when the thinking about mind is us on the throne, a story that Swami always shared, that how we need to treat the mind, how we need to the relationship we should have with the mind is, Swami said, once a person went to God and said, I need a maid, I need a servant, I need a worker to do all my work. And then God granted that wish and said, one condition, this entity will do all the work for you, but the moment you stop giving work to this entity will kill you. And so he was very happy. He said, okay, you know what, I'll give enough work. I have plenty of work. And then he came home, he assigned work one day, and then this person has finished the work within a few hours. And then he was able to find more work, he finished it. So 2-3 days it went on, and he was able to give, this person was able to give tasks for this person. But then this person became so exhaustive. So he exhausted all the work he has to do, or he or she has to do. So he went back to God. He said, no, now this person is going to kill me. This maid is going to kill me because there's no work for this maid. And God said, I warned you, but you should think properly. And then God gave a suggestion. When you don't have work, when you don't have any task for this person, what you do is you get a stick, or you install a big pole, and then ask this person to go climb up and climb down. That is the work you give when you don't have any assigned task for this person. So this person is always busy going up and down. Now the analogy is that God is basically the Atma. And when we put mind in control, there is a saying, right, that idle mind is a devil's workshop. So when the mind is not put to work, it will kill us. As all these things, overthinking, anxiety, fear, lack of confidence, you can name it, everything, we go through every single thing here. But when the mind is put to work in the right way, meaning focusing on the breath or the breathing, then we become calm, the mental chatter becomes quiet, so that Atma is reigned. Atma is in control. In other words, the consciousness, as Swami said, conscience is in control. So that mind follows the conscience, and the senses also follow the mind. And that is the right order to be in. Conscience leads the mind, and mind leads the senses. If it's the other way around, we are in great calamity. So with that, back to you, Brother Suresh.
Thank you. Niranjan. Nice story. That's why it's sort of like summarizes what we are trying to say this. So next slide. So now we are going into a workshop. Brothers and sisters, this honestly, if we sincerely look into this whole dynamics of this is the real essence of what we are all talking about and what we are trying to ponder. So the four questions that we are supposed to ask is look deep inside and assess, who have I put on my throne, mind or Atma, mostly in a day? In a one whole day, who is in control? So if you, in fact, you start doing this, very exciting. If you look, who said that? Why you think like this? Who are you? If you keep on asking, suddenly you will be able to rip open the mask of that mind. You will rip open and you suddenly start to see it is not what you think it is. And this is what self-realization is all about. To realize who the real self is what the whole point is. But that cannot come without questioning. And this is proven in Jnana Vahini, where Baba said, if you cannot question, you cannot become a jnani. Only a questioning mind can open the doors. This is why Gita is questions, all the Upanishads are in questions, because we need to question. That's why we have asked this question, who have you put on the throne? Mind or Atma, mostly in a day. Second question, which is important, do I really have a yearning to put all the time Atma on my throne? So don't worry about whether it's realistic or not realistic and all that. That's not the question here. Question here is, do I have the yearning to do that? That's all. So the earnestness, yes, I really want to. Is this happening or not? Third question, what resolution should I undertake to place Atma on my throne? Okay, now I understand that mind is, what should I do now? What should I do? So this is the resolution part. And why would you want to put Atma on your throne? That's another fourth point, the final question to that, because that seals up that whole argument. How we are going to put that Atma will be the toolkit that we'll explain to you later. How part, that also is directly from Swami. How is the Swami's part, we will be explaining to you, but this is to make sure the field is ready so that for the seeds to be planted. So we have got facilitators we have already assigned. They will definitely guide you in this whole process. Yes, Ashok, you have raised your hand. Ashok.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt you, Suresh. When I was hearing all of you speak a moment ago, and there are two different themes in the conversation. There was the idea of self-confidence and all the virtues on one of the chairs against all the negative qualities on the other chair. And we moved to the issue of the Atma. The Atma is, using the language of the Atma is a very funny thing, because it's a concept which many of us cannot concretize, okay, unless you've experienced or connected, in which case you won't have this conversation. So I just wonder if when we talk about the Atma and we look at these four questions, do you think that perhaps Swami and Atma are interchangeable? Because Swami is easy for the mind to concretize.
Thank you, Ashok. It's a beautiful thing that you have just said, because Swami himself said, one who has slit faith on God is because he has his faith has slided on Atma. And God, and for us, Swami is the same. So yes, install Swami back again inside. So those of us who have got issues with really concretizing and conceptualizing Atma, put Swami. That is the best thing you can do. In fact, actually, we should have done that. Okay, mind or Swami, put like that. So if Swami is in control, what kind of values, what kind of feeling, what kind of bhava should be better? If mind is there, what kind of things is there? So just reinstall that back, no problem. That's very good point. Thank you so much, Ashok. Thank you. Okay, so let's get into the workshops and come back in 25 minutes. Today's session, I think, will take slightly longer, but please stay with us. Those of you who go into the workshop, don't slip away and not come back, because the concluding part of this is important, because you really need to know how to get to the Swami part, and which he himself has given the answer. So when you come back, you will get to see the answers.
Suresh, you could hold this to 20 minutes if you wish, because with 65 people here, that's smaller groups than if it was a full, like 10 per group.
Okay, so we can
Sharing
come back.
time might be a little bit less.
Okay, we can come back in 20 minutes. Yeah.
20 minutes?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to open up the rooms.
Members.
No, Jeannie,
Yes,
wait,
please.
hold on, Jeannie. No, because everybody must listen to what you're saying.
They're coming back. Everyone's coming back.
Oh, okay. This is your breakout
Yes,
room.
We've got everybody. We've got
Okay,
65
all of us
people.
are back. Okay, so we randomly pick up people, William. We can choose randomly people and then select.
Yeah, let's see. Who is it who just spoke? Was it
Jeannie Boo.
Yeah, Jeannie Boo, would you like to go ahead and share first?
All right, thank you. The first question, my group members said most of the time is the mind that's sitting on the throne. And also, do I really have a yearning to put all the time? The second question, they said yearning is there, but not sure if we can measure it in time. It's like a process, more like a process. And then what resolution should I undertake to place Atma on my throne? And the answers given were the good practices that we can do, like keeping good company, practicing loving kindness, practicing help ever, hurt never, and then reading Sai teachings and practicing harmony in thought, word, and deed. All these things are positive things that are resolutions that we can undertake so that we can place the Atma on our throne. Yeah, and then regarding the last question, why would you want to place the Atma on your throne? The answer given was because we are embarking on this spiritual journey. So definitely we need to place the Atma on our throne so that we can progress, we can move on. We can move on in this spiritual journey. Yeah, so these were some of the answers my group members gave. Yeah, Sairam, thank you.
Sairam, thank you so much. Thank you. One thing you reminded me of as you're talking, Jeannie Boo, was that this whole thing is kind of like doing physical exercise, which we are necessary for having a healthy body. And every time we do a particular sadhana, as you were listing, it's strengthening that muscle, strengthening the muscles, strengthening the endurance, and it actually strengthens the yearning. And so doing those things helps build our determination, helps build our openness. It makes us more willing to let go of the mind and assign it its rightful task, which is to help us navigate the dualistic world, but under the direction of the Atma. And so thank you for that. Do we have any of the other group leaders who'd like to just summarize what your group had to say?
There's some nice things said in the chat box.
Would you like to read those, Suresh?
Billy, can you read, Billy?
Yeah, let me read since it comes from my group. Can I just read it? Sure. Yeah. Okay. Sairam, everyone. I think it's a similar response from the earlier group that just shared. But what was interesting was that usually we start the day in the morning with a lot of prayers and we start in a very calm situation. So we usually put Atma in the throne. And then during the day, something triggers, some situation happens, and sometimes it's quite frequent or it is quite routine, and then the mind takes over, and then we have to consciously try to work very hard to move the Atma back into control. So that was the experience that were given. So some of them said that they recognize that some of the trigger points that gives away this control. And identifying these trigger points were important so that you be careful so that what you start the day with, you can hold on to as long as possible. So I thought that was something very realistic. The second one is that why you must have the yearning is because most of them shared that from past experiences, all the wonderful experiences, all the blissful experiences, all the opportunities to overcome some very, very tough challenges, mostly happened when the Atma was in control. When the Atma was the director, the producer of the events, So they are aware, or we are aware, through memory recall, through very clear evidence that the Atma provides the necessary responses that gives us the happiness and the bliss that we seek. Point number 3 is very similar to the first group, so I'll skip that. And point number 4 is that, to the question, why would we want to place Atma on the throne, is pretty much the same as point number 2, because it helps us to find more peaceful, more resolution, to see goodness in difficult situations, because otherwise, through the mind, the actual problem itself becomes other kind of problems that sometimes it becomes more and more difficult. So that was the feedback from the group. Thank you, Sairam.
Thank you, Ganesh. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sairam. One thing to remember here is that the mind was created by God for a purpose. And so it's not an enemy. It's not like we have to kill it. It's simply we have to put it into its proper role. And ultimately, when it's in that proper role of helping under the direction of the Atma to help us, like you come to a stoplight, okay, the mind helps you understand you need to stop the car and be safe. Let it serve its proper function. And then the Atma, as being the control, the driver, if you will, can really navigate the world correctly. So it's just a matter of putting things in perspective this way. Suresh, I'm going to give it back to you because I know we're a little bit past time, and I'll let you pick it up from here.
Thank you, William. Okay, I'm sure all the facilitators would have a common experience. I don't want the, most of you have given the answers. I would like the facilitators to actually capture the essence of what you have discussed, so that we will actually consolidate all these findings nicely and maybe circulate it to all our members as well, so that everybody will get ideas and perspectives from different places, if you don't mind. So that's one thing that we will be doing. Second point here is that I just want another spiritual insight into this. While you are discussing this insight, did anyone of you suddenly feel, while discussing now, there's a system in your head now to think that somebody else is in control, and I want to make sure that I get the right person in control? Did that anyone add that experience? That just to finish off this discussion.
Sister Kamlesh from Thailand, would you like to answer that question?
Yeah, Kamlesh, yeah, please. Yeah.
Saira, yes, now it's unmuted. While our conversation was going, discussion was going on, then I could feel that yes, my way of thinking has changed. Like where I was thinking that my mind was thinking that I need to do one thing or the other. I put Swami now, Swami in my heart. The Swami wants me to do this, and I am Swami, and that work is Swami, and the process of my efforts, putting my efforts, is also Swami. So in this way, it gives me more pleasure, more happiness to do the work, and the outcome is also beautiful, and I feel very peaceful, very happy in doing that. When I place Swami in my heart, in my thoughts, in the work, that work is also Swami. So that transition has come into my mind during the conversation.
Thank you, sister. Thank you so much. Thank you, Asha, for pointing out. Okay, so now that
if I may just quickly add one thing. One question is, maybe how do we gauge that? How do we know who is in control? How do you know if it's mine is on my throne or the Atma is on my throne? How do I know that?
Yeah,
maybe something to ponder about.
I think we have shared it in our group, that how do we know? Because when we are at the Atma, is there all the qualities of calmness, equilibrium, and everything is there. But when mind is controlled, there's a duality is happening. So we are disturbed. Like in the morning, we are very calm because we have with the Atma was in the throne because of meditation. But daytime, some situation makes us disturbed. So that is the trigger point. We thought that we should be there. The moment we are getting disturbed, we should say, no, I have to be at the seat of Atma has to come, and then I must become calm. And that one thing which came very clearly, that why we should practice, the last one is the one which we are talking, the oneness. because Swami has always said that oneness has to be maintained. So when we are practicing it to get the oneness, that the other person is not separate from me, the situation is not separate from me, and that when it starts coming, I think we are reaching our side.
Yeah. So nice answer, Brother Ashok, Brother Manoj. And actually, so that means two people can be discussing, both of them are in conflict, and if you come out from that discussion and both feel separate, then we have not achieved the spiritual objective of this entire discussion. So in other words, when we come out from anything, we should still feel oneness, we should feel connected, and we should be together. Because the end of what all Swami has said is about oneness. Okay, how do we achieve this? Now the question is, how do we achieve this, God? How is the most important point? And here comes the secret from Swami's discourse. Next slide. This is where we go into the toolkit. Yeah, so if you apply this tool, you see this is a tree, it's too many branches, so you need to trim it now. When you trim it, it becomes better. So the tool helps you to trim, and by trimming that, you will find that the clouds are removed, the sun of Atma comes out shining. It's actually literally the Atma is already there. It's not something that you need to put in there. The question is the mind is blocking it too greatly. You have to remove that, and that you see the effulgence of the sun. So now next slide will show you the true spirituality consists in the elimination of all animal instincts, in bite, cruelty, backbiting in man, and manifesting the divine light within. That's it. So the divine sunlight, the sun, the Atma, it comes out effulging if you continue to trim and remove all these things. Next slide, you'll find that. Spirituality is nothing but the blossoming of love. It is love alone that unites the entire mankind into one. And this love is what we are going to continue the next 2 weeks, where we talk about the nature of divinity. Now tool time. Okay. In tool time, Baba explains the way to do this. Swami speaks about Buddhi and Swami speaks about Meda Shakti. Buddhi Shakti and Meda Shakti is two different things. So in you have physical sheath, mental sheath, vital air sheath. This is the Panchakosha. And then the Buddhi sheath, which is directly connected to the Ananda Maya Kosha, bliss sheath. Swami said, how do you develop Buddhi? Because Buddhi is the key towards it, the closest towards it. Now, here is the secret. So Swami says, if you want to develop the Buddhi, now watch this. Buddhi is the key. This is the key and consistent key that you should apply in order to reinstall back the Atma continuously. One is, Baba said, there are 4 qualities that Swami mentions. Number one quality that Swami mentioned, this Swami's direct discourse. Swami said, Shraddha. Shraddha is steadfast faith. So you must have Shraddha. Baba said, Swami, Shraddha, how do you develop Shraddha? Somebody asked. Swami said, for Shraddha to develop, you must have yearning. You must have yearning, and you must have consistent yearning to develop Shraddha. Then what else, Swami, that we need? You need rhythm. What is rhythm? Purity in thought, word, and deed. This is the 3 karana. Shuddhi, which is part of it. He explains this in terms of a rhythm 3. So this exercise must be always there, purity in thought, word, and deed. Then what, Swami, what will this lead to? This will lead to experiencing Sathya. Then Baba said, it is not a nijam. Nijam is truth. This is factual truth. This is not something about factual. Is this right? Is this wrong? No. He said the system will start to move towards the ultimate truth. That is called Sathya. This seeking must be there to see what is the real truth. Seek truth. So this is the 3rd quality that individual must have. Then he said, you must be in yoga. Yoga is not the hatha yoga and all that. The real yoga, Swami said, is simply control of senses. The senses must be in control. Baba said in Prema Vahini that why is it that those people experience meditation experience, why our experience of meditation is not deep? Because those people, when they meditated at that time, at that period, had very little desires. Whereas in our side, we bring desires inside. So the key thing is to control desires. And then when you develop Shraddha, Rhythm, Satya, Yoga, you develop this Mother Shakti, which is the divine power. All 5 together, we start practicing simultaneously or even one after another. this Buddhi Shakti will start developing. When the Buddhi Shakti starts developing, there will be clarity of vision, continuous clarity of vision will start developing. Once you have clarity of vision and purpose and discrimination, they will find the mind becoming very, very strong. I just want at this point of time, William to jump in and talk about that, what Swami told him about the Buddhi.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, in my very first interview with Swami, my wife and I, it was in Whitefield. And I had a question I brought into that I wanted to ask him. And I said, Swami, you know, there's the talk of all the five sheaths. And you go from the body and senses to the manas, to the buddhi, and the atma. And I said, and you also talk about how God lives in your heart. And I said, my question is this: if the atma exists within the buddhi, or it's in the sheath inside the buddhi, and God lives in the heart, does that mean the buddhi is the same as the spiritual heart? And he said, yes. And so a lot of times we think of the buddhi as another mental aspect, but really the buddhi, the buddhi is the love of the heart. With that love is the seat of wisdom, it's the basis of wisdom. And next session, I'll go further about even the research that shows that when we are experiencing joy, love, caring, gratitude, and so on in the heart, the brain actually opens up its activity. The wisdom in the frontal cortex is available. And when our heart is irritated, for feeling emotions such as irritation, anger, fear, and so on, the mind in the front is shut down, and it's only back in our limbic reptile brain. And so the buddhi really is that sense of the love is the basis, and you have to be in the spiritual heart in order to really then find the God there. And so that's what we'll actually go further into in the next session, is that link between heart, love, and buddhi, so that we can be within that buddhi power and experience God reigning in the throne inside of our heart.
Yeah. Thank you, William. And therefore, the divine power, the spiritual divine powers, grace, love, starts by practicing these four things. These are very practical things that Baba has given. Continuously have steadfast faith and yearning. Continuously have purity in thought, word, and deed. Always go towards truth and control of them. This is something that he has spoken about, but we need to think about it, doing these things as an integrated approach towards this. So therefore, the next slide will show you, when in the coming 2 weeks, in the next 2 weeks, practice one of the following. If you cannot practice all four, at least one of the following. Start now. Okay, every time the thought comes out, now you have already come into the conclusion, who is in control, Atma or the. Then start now looking at whether the thought, word, and deed, is it aligning or not? Or look at the fact that whether my sense, am I still wanting a lot of things? Am I able to control a little bit of these things? So control of senses. Seek the higher. When you seek truth, what do you mean by that? Whatever you're doing now in life, whatever you're doing, what is the higher purpose in what you're doing? This is a very powerful question. Hey, what is the higher purpose of me doing? Okay, I'm going to work. Even in your workplace, if you're going to work, what is the higher purpose of doing that same work of what you're doing? What is the higher purpose of looking after your children or your wife or your husband or your home? What's the higher purpose? So once you start looking for the higher purpose in things like this, you start seeking truth, higher truth, and then have steadfastness in the faith. Swami said, Shraddha cannot be developed just by having a yearning. You must have steadfastness also. So steadfast yearning must be there in order for you to develop this. So in the next 2 weeks, practice one of the following, 1, 2, 3, 4, or you can practice all four, and then narrate your spiritual experiences while observing any one of the practice of the four when you come back next time. So today's session is deep session. It is because of the simple, this is like a procedural process in which you need to seriously reflect some of these things. But more importantly, this will take us directly into the experience of what we are trying to talk about in the subject matter of nurturing spiritual growth. Okay, so this is what we all are trying to do. By the way, just to let you all know, all of us are not pundits or anything like that. We are just trying to help each other, pull everybody up. So we are using you to pull us, and we are using us to pull each other up, so that all of us collectively all reach his abode in time. So this is where we are. We want to finish off. We still have about 5 questions where you just need to fill up in a Google form. You've got a Google form as far as this lesson is concerned. Please take this time to fill up the questions, because these are being compiled and we need to improve as time goes by. Just if you can just click on and add those answers to these questions if you found this session useful, in terms of how the session, in terms of engagement, in terms of information, in terms of knowledge.
So, Suresh, maybe just one thing I would like to say, that to make this program, and I think we shared this earlier too, to make this program, or to get the maximum out of this program, is what's important is everyone to share their thoughts, their experience, and whatever. There is no right answer, there's no wrong answer. Everyone has an answer, and everyone's answer is valid. So please do share your thoughts, and we'll try to, in the future, we'll try to make it more interactive, so that there is more interaction and we all share our thoughts and we expand our perspectives. That's the whole point. We all are here on this journey together and towards our goal. And maybe just one thing to say, that who is in charge, the mind or the Swami? When you're making a decision, are you choosing between your choices, or you're very certain this is the right thing to do? Maybe that's something, a tool to use to see who is in control. So with that, I would like to say thank you and gratitude to Swami for this opportunity.
Okay, so dear brothers and sisters, it has been really a very nice, exhilarating experience. I'm sure Brother William and Brother Niranjan also will agree that this is really a nice, enlightening process for us, as well as hopefully for all of you. This is what we want. We want to really we want to get to the next level. You see, that's what our earnestness is. And by Swami's grace, we also pray earnestly that we all want to go directly. And at the end of the day, we want to celebrate the victory of reinstalling back Atma, and celebrate our life in a very joyous and great manner. So till we meet again, thank you. A lot of people have spent a lot of background. By the way, next time we will have to produce something called the making of this, because there's a whole lot of people at the background doing a whole lot of work that brings everything together in a nice, seamless manner. But thank you. Sai Ram, good night. Thank you, Swami, for all this wonderful experience.